My name is Amelia Barrett, and at 30 years old, I became the failure my family always warned me I would be. I still remember staring at my phone, reading my Aunt Geraldine's text. No failures allowed at the reunion. The message stung, but it wasn't surprising. What they didn't know was that the exclusive Sapphire Hotel, where they planned their grand family gathering, had my name on the building. Not just as an employee, as the owner. I decided it was finally time they learned what failure truly looked like. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment telling me where you're viewing from. Hit that like button if you have ever been underestimated, and subscribe to join our community of underdogs who came out on top. Now, let me show you how I turned their rejection into my greatest moment of triumph. Growing up in the Barrett family meant one thing. Success was measured by academic achievements and prestigious careers. My father, Edward Barrett, was a respected cardiac surgeon whose name appeared in medical journals. My mother, Eleanor, worked as a university dean before I was born. My Aunt Geraldine, my father's older sister, was a federal judge who never let anyone forget her position. My cousins Cassandra and Bradley were following the family tradition, Cassandra in medical school and Bradley studying law at Yale. The Barretts had a lineage of doctors, lawyers, and professors stretching back 3 generations. Family gatherings resembled academic conferences more than casual get-togethers. The dinner table conversations revolved around published papers, court cases, and university politics. As a child, I tried to keep up, eagerly sharing my perfect spelling test scores or science fair victories. "She has the Barrett intelligence," my father would say proudly, patting my head. I was on track to fulfill the Barrett legacy. My grades were excellent. I participated in all the right extracurricular activities, and by 17, I had acceptance letters from several Ivy League schools. Harvard was the natural choice, where both my parents had attended. Then, during my sophomore year at Harvard, everything changed. I was in the middle of a psychology lecture when my phone kept vibrating. 3 missed calls from my mother. When I finally answered between classes, her voice was barely recognizable. "Your father collapsed at the hospital. Heart attack. They couldn't save him." Just like that, my perfect Barrett life shattered. The funeral was a blur of black suits and sympathetic murmurs. I remember Aunt Geraldine organizing everything, taking charge as she always did, while my mother seemed to shrink into herself with each passing day. After the funeral came the financial reality. My father, brilliant as he was with medicine, had been terrible with money. The life insurance barely covered his funeral expenses. The mortgage on our house was underwater after a recent renovation. Credit card debt mounted. Medical school loans still unpaid. My mother, overwhelmed by grief, couldn't return to work. I returned to Harvard to finish the semester, but each night was spent on calls with creditors and insurance companies. My grades began to slip. When summer came, I took 3 jobs instead of the prestigious internship I had lined up. When September approached, I made the hardest decision of my life. I walked into the financial aid office and withdrew from Harvard. The Barrett family genius was dropping out to work full-time and take care of her mother. The family reaction was swift and merciless. Aunt Geraldine called it throwing away your potential and disgracing your father's memory. Cassandra, who was thriving in medical school, couldn't understand why I wouldn't just take out more loans as she had done. Bradley suggested I was using Mom as an excuse because I couldn't handle the Barrett pressure. Only my grandmother Martha, my mother's mother, defended me. "There are many paths to success," she told me over tea in her modest apartment. "And taking care of family is never failure." But her voice was drowned out by the others. At Thanksgiving that year, Aunt Geraldine seated me at the kids' table. At Christmas, Bradley forgot to send me an invitation to his graduation party. When I arrived at Easter dinner with drugstore chocolate instead of the traditional gourmet gifts, Cassandra rolled her eyes so dramatically I thought they might fall out of her head. My brother Samuel tried to stand up for me occasionally, She's working 3 jobs and taking care of Mom. What exactly are you doing for the family, Geraldine? But even he was eventually worn down by the constant pressure to uphold the Barrett name. The isolation grew as the years passed. Invitations to family events became rare, and when I did attend, the conversation would suddenly switch to Latin phrases from law school or medical terminology I no longer understood. I became the cautionary tale told to younger cousins, the once promising Barrett who threw it all away. When my grandmother Martha passed away when I was 22, she left me her modest savings of $50,000 and a leather-bound notebook filled with business advice from her days running a small but successful dress shop in the 1960s. Aunt Geraldine received the family heirloom jewelry and made sure everyone knew its value compared to my pittance. What she didn't understand was that my grandmother had given me something far more valuable than diamonds. She had given me freedom. The $50,000 my grandmother left me became my lifeline to independence. While my family thought I was foolishly wasting my inheritance, I was carefully studying the market for opportunities. I carried my grandmother's notebook everywhere, reading her handwritten advice during lunch breaks at the diner where I waited tables. Find what others overlook, she had written. Value isn't always visible at first glance. 3 months after receiving my inheritance, I attended a local business networking event, wearing a second-hand suit and feeling completely out of place among established entrepreneurs. That's where I met Anthony Reynolds, a 30-year-old real estate agent with big dreams but limited capital. We connected over our shared feeling of being outsiders in that room. Everyone here is talking about tech startups and cryptocurrency, he said. Nobody's looking at the unsexy businesses that actually generate steady income. We stayed until closing, sketching business models on napkins. By the end of the night, we had the blueprint for a small property management company. I would invest $40,000 for 60% ownership, and Anthony would contribute his real estate knowledge and connections. Barrett Reynolds Property Management was born in a tiny office above a laundromat. Our first year was brutal. We secured only 3 properties to manage, barely covering our minimal overhead. Anthony took another job to support himself, while I continued waitressing 6 nights a week. The turning point came through one of my regular customers at the diner, Harold Lancaster, an elderly man who owned a small, struggling 20-room hotel on the outskirts of town. He came in every Tuesday for meatloaf and would complain about the impossible business he could no longer manage after his wife's passing. "Why don't you sell it?" I asked one evening while refilling his coffee. "Nobody wants a rundown hotel these days, sweetheart. The big chains have taken over everything." For weeks, I peppered him with questions about occupancy rates, operational costs, and market positioning while serving his meatloaf. Eventually, I made him an offer. $10,000, my remaining inheritance plus everything I had saved from tips, as a down payment, with a 5-year seller financing arrangement. He laughed at first, then realized I was serious. 3 months later, I had my first hotel, the Parkview Inn, a 20-room property with peeling wallpaper, outdated bathrooms, and exactly 2 employees who stayed on after the purchase. Anthony thought I had lost my mind, but reluctantly agreed to help with the business structure and contracts. Our property management company became the holding entity for the hotel, though Anthony made it clear he wanted no part in the hotel operations. I moved into one of the rooms to eliminate my apartment rent and worked 7 days a week, managing the front desk during the day and renovating rooms at night. I learned plumbing from YouTube videos and bargained with local suppliers for discounted fixtures. Each room I renovated allowed me to increase the rate by $30 a night. I designed a new website myself, took photography classes at the community center to capture professional-looking room photos, and crafted personalized thank you notes for every guest. Within 18 months, our occupancy rate had gone from 30% to 75%, and we were generating modest but consistent profits. The local business journal ran a small feature on the woman revitalizing the Parkview Inn, which caught the attention of Marissa Torres, a local investor looking to diversify her portfolio. She offered to buy a 20% stake in the hotel for enough capital to complete the renovations immediately rather than room by room. With Marissa's investment, we transformed the Parkview into a boutique hotel experience within 6 months. Our occupancy hit 90% and our rates doubled. Anthony, seeing the success, suddenly wanted a larger role in the hotel operations. Our disagreements about the direction of the business grew heated. "We should sell now while the value is high," he argued. "Take the profit and move on to something bigger." "This is just the beginning," I countered. "We've proven the concept works. Now we scale." Our partnership dissolved when I bought out Anthony's share using a loan Marissa helped me secure. Barrett Property Holdings became mine alone, and I set my sights on expansion. By 26, I owned 3 small hotels in neighboring towns, all following the same model of personalized service and distinctive character. I had assembled a core team who believed in my vision. Marcus Green, a former corporate hotel manager who left the chain life to join my growing company; Calvin Hayes, a retired police officer who handled security and facilities; and Danielle Weber, my brilliant operations assistant who kept everything running smoothly. The opportunity that changed everything came when Westbrook Tower, a historic 12-story building in downtown, went into foreclosure. The previous owner, real estate mogul Richard Klein, had overextended himself during the market downturn. The building had been partially converted into a luxury hotel but remained unfinished when funds ran out. "It's too big for us," Marcus warned. "The operational costs alone would sink our current cash flow." But I couldn't let go of the vision. This building, with its Art Deco architecture and prime location, could become the flagship property I had dreamed of. I spent weeks developing a business plan and pitching to every investor and bank in the region. 15 rejections later, I found my partners. A small investment group specializing in historic properties. They loved my track record and were willing to take the risk. The deal was complex and left me with only 51% ownership. But it was enough to maintain control. For the next 18 months, I lived and breathed the renovation of what would become the Sapphire Hotel. I hired Ethan Daniels, a talented architect specializing in historic preservation, to lead the design team. What began as a professional relationship slowly evolved into something more as we spent countless hours discussing balancing luxury with historical integrity. When the Sapphire opened its doors 3 years ago, it instantly became the most exclusive hotel in the city. With 70 luxury suites, a rooftop restaurant, and a restored grand ballroom. It attracted celebrities, business executives, and wealthy tourists seeking a unique experience. Throughout this entire journey, I kept my success hidden from most of my family. My mother knew. Of course, she had watched the transformation from our modest apartment, where I had moved her after selling our family home to pay off debts. She had slowly recovered from her depression and now helped with bookkeeping for the smaller properties. My brother Samuel was the only other family member aware of my growing business empire. He had visited each property and marveled at what I had built. "They have no idea," he said during the opening gala for the Sapphire. "Geraldine still tells everyone you're finding yourself while working menial jobs." "Let her think that," I replied. "I don't need their validation anymore." But deep down, a part of me still wanted them to see what I had accomplished, not to brag, but to finally put to rest the narrative that I was the family failure. That opportunity would come sooner than I expected. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning as I was reviewing the quarterly financial reports in my office at the Sapphire. The subject line read, "Barrett Family Reunion. Save the date." From Eleanor Barrett, eleanor.barrett@email.com. Subject, Barrett Family Reunion. Save the date. Date, March 15th, 2025. Dear family, I hope this email finds you well. Aunt Geraldine has organized a special family reunion to celebrate Grandma and Grandpa Barrett's 70th wedding anniversary. though they are no longer with us. Geraldine thought it would be meaningful to gather the entire family in their honor. The event will take place on April 24th to 26th at a location to be announced shortly. Please RSVP to Geraldine directly. Love, Mom. I stared at the screen, coffee growing cold beside my keyboard. My mother had sent this mass email to the family list, but I noticed she had also sent me a private message immediately after. Amelia, I know these gatherings have been difficult in the past. Geraldine insisted I include everyone. You don't have to come if it makes you uncomfortable. Love you always, Mom. I closed my laptop, unsure how to feel. Past family gatherings had been exercises in humiliation. Did I really want to subject myself to another round of thinly veiled criticism and pitying looks? My phone chimed with a text from Samuel. You should come this time. Stephanie and I will be there with the kids. Things are different now. I promise we'll have your back. Samuel had always tried to shield me from the worst of the family judgment, though often unsuccessfully. His wife Stephanie was one of the few in-laws who treated me with genuine warmth. Later that afternoon, Stephanie herself called. Did you get the email about the reunion? She asked after our usual pleasantries. Just this morning. I'm not sure it's a good idea for me to go. I get it. But you should know Geraldine is making this her magnum opus of family events. She's trying to book some ultra-exclusive venue to reflect the Barrett standard of excellence, her words, not mine. That sounds like Geraldine. Samuel, and I think you should come. Show them who you really are now. I thanked her for the support but remained non-committal. After we hung up, I opened Facebook to find a message from my cousin Bradley. Hey cousin. Long time no see. Just wanted to let you know I've made partner at Winthrop and Associates. Youngest partner in the firm's history. We'll be sharing the news at the big reunion. Hope you can make it, if you're not too busy with whatever it is you're doing these days. The condescension was palpable even through the screen. Bradley had always been competitive, even when we were children building sandcastles at the beach. His had to be taller, more elaborate, more perfect. My email pinged again, this time from Cassandra. From Cassandra Barrett Dr. Cassandra.barrett@email.com. Subject: Family Achievements for Anniversary Booklet. Date: March 15th, 2025. Hello, Barrett family. As part of the 70th anniversary celebration, I'm compiling a booklet highlighting our family achievements. Please send me your degrees, professional accomplishments, publications, awards, etc. by April 1st. We want to showcase the Barrett legacy of excellence. Cassandra Barrett, MD, PhD, Chief Resident. Cardiology. Boston Memorial Hospital. The email included a detailed list of Cassandra's own accomplishments, from her perfect SAT scores to her recent research publication. The family group email chain quickly filled with responses: Uncle Robert's law review articles, Cousin Jennifer's Fulbright scholarship, and Patricia's tenure achievement. I didn't respond. 3 days later, the final blow came in the form of a direct text message from Aunt Geraldine. Amelia, regarding the reunion, we've secured the Sapphire Hotel downtown for our gathering. It's very exclusive and maintains the Barrett standard. No failures allowed. If you haven't accomplished anything worth sharing in Cassandra's booklet, perhaps skip this event. We want to maintain a certain image. I felt the familiar sting, then something new. Not anger exactly, but a calm certainty. I showed the message to Ethan that evening as we shared dinner in my penthouse apartment above the hotel. She booked the Sapphire? Ethan asked, nearly choking on his wine. Your hotel? Does she know? Apparently not, I said, surprising myself with a laugh. The reservation department wouldn't have made the connection. I don't exactly advertise my ownership. This is priceless, Ethan said, taking my hand across the table. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I admitted. Part of me wants to let them have their perfect Barrett reunion surrounded by my success without ever knowing. Another part wants to walk in and watch their faces when they realize. The next morning, Danielle rushed into my office with an odd expression. "You'll never believe who just called to speak with our events manager," she said. A Cassandra Barrett. Said she's planning a family reunion and wants our best package, but is asking for a substantial discount because they're a prestigious family that will bring good publicity. I leaned back in my chair, taking this in. What did Angela tell her? That we'd be happy to accommodate their event at our standard rates, which Cassandra called highway robbery before grudgingly agreeing. She's coming in tomorrow to tour the facilities. That evening, my phone buzzed with notifications from the family group chat I rarely checked. Bradley, Aunt G secured the Sapphire for the reunion. That's the most exclusive hotel in the city. Very on brand for the Barretts. Cassandra had to fight for a decent rate. These luxury places think they can charge anything. Still, we deserve the best. Geraldine. The Sapphire's grand ballroom will be perfect for displaying our family achievements. I've asked them to set up special lighting for Cassandra's presentation boards. The messages continued, each more self-congratulatory than the last. I showed them to my mother when she came for our weekly dinner. They have no idea, do they? She asked, a rare smile playing at her lips. Not a clue. I confirmed. What are you going to do, sweetheart? I looked out the window at the city skyline, the lights twinkling below us. I think it's time the Barretts learned what their failure has been up to. The next morning, I called an emergency meeting with Marcus, Calvin, and Danielle in my private conference room. The wall-to-wall windows overlooked the city, a view I never tired of, but today my focus was entirely on the matter at hand. The Barrett family reunion is happening here in 6 weeks, I announced, pulling up the reservation details on the screen. They don't know I own this place. Danielle suppressed a smile. Your aunt has been challenging to work with already. She's called 3 times with special requests. Marcus leaned forward. What's the plan, Amelia? Do you want us to give them special treatment or the opposite? I shook my head. Neither. I want them to receive exactly the exceptional service we provide all our guests. Nothing more, nothing less. But, Calvin started, already anticipating my next point. But I don't want anyone revealing that I'm the owner. Not until I decide the right moment. We spent the next hour mapping out the logistics. The Barrett family had booked 20 rooms and the grand ballroom for their 3-day event. Geraldine, as the organizer, had requested specific room arrangements, custom menus, and elaborate decorations befitting the Barrett legacy. We need to temporarily remove your portrait from the founder's wall, Danielle noted, referring to the lobby display featuring a tasteful photo of me alongside the hotel's opening date. And the plaque in the ballroom, Marcus added. It has your full name. Calvin looked concerned. Your name is on half the documentation in this building. What if someone snoops around? Temporary rebranding, I decided. For this event only. We use the full corporate name, Barrett Luxury Holdings, LLC, with no reference to me personally. Marcus, you'll be introduced as the managing director if anyone asks who runs the place. As my team took notes, I felt a twinge of uncertainty. Was I being petty? Would this elaborate reveal accomplish anything meaningful, or was I just seeking revenge for years of dismissal? That evening, I shared my doubts with Ethan as we walked through the hotel garden, my favorite place to clear my head. I keep asking myself what I'm trying to prove, I admitted. Am I still that insecure Harvard dropout desperate for their approval? Ethan stopped beside the fountain, turning to face me. This isn't about proving anything to them, Amelia. It's about reclaiming your narrative. They've defined you as a failure for so long, both to your face and behind your back. You have every right to correct that perception. But is it worth it? Shouldn't I be above this by now? Being above it doesn't mean letting people continually mischaracterize you, he argued gently. Sometimes setting the record straight is the healthiest thing you can do. Later that night, I called my childhood friend Isabella, who had witnessed the Barrett family dynamics firsthand over the years. They're coming to your hotel and have no idea, she laughed after I explained the situation. That's karma at its finest. I'm just not sure how to handle it, I said. Part of me wants to let them discover it dramatically, but that feels vindictive. Amelia, listen to me. Isabella's voice grew serious. You're worried about being vindictive, while your aunt literally texted you, no failures allowed. Don't lower yourself to their level with some elaborate revenge. But don't miss this opportunity to stand in your truth either. Her words resonated. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. For the next several days, I rehearsed various scenarios with Ethan, trying to find the approach that felt right. Should I greet them upon arrival? Wait until their formal dinner? Make a dramatic entrance during Cassandra's presentation of family achievements? None of these feel authentic to who you are, Ethan observed after our 5th roleplay attempt. You've built your success on quiet confidence and genuine quality, not flash and drama. He was right. Whatever I did needed to reflect the values that had guided my business: integrity, excellence, and quiet confidence. I selected my outfit carefully, a tailored charcoal Armani suit with a subtle sapphire pin on the lapel, professional but not showy. I prepared a brief, dignified speech that acknowledged the past without dwelling on it. I arranged for my mother, Samuel, and Stephanie to have our finest suites, secretly upgraded without Geraldine's knowledge. Most importantly, I instructed my staff to treat every family member with impeccable courtesy, regardless of how they behaved. Their actions reflect on them. I told my team during our final briefing, ours reflect on us. As the day approached, I found myself surprisingly calm. The insecure young woman who had once dreaded family gatherings had been replaced by someone who knew her own worth, with or without the Barrett stamp of approval. The morning of the Barrett family reunion arrived with perfect spring weather, sunshine streaming through the windows of my penthouse as I sipped my coffee and watched the city wake up below. Despite my outward calm, my stomach churned with anticipation. Ready for today? Ethan asked, joining me by the window. He'd stayed over, knowing I might need moral support. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied, smoothing down my suit jacket for the 10th time. We took the private elevator down to my office, where I could monitor the hotel security cameras. Calvin had set up a special feed showing the main entrance, lobby, and ballroom where most of the activities would take place. They're starting to arrive, Danielle announced, poking her head in around 11 a.m. Your aunt was first, of course. Already inspecting everything and finding fault. I nodded, watching the monitors as luxury cars pulled up to the entrance. The valet team sprang into action, greeting each arrival with practiced efficiency. On one screen, I could see Aunt Geraldine in the lobby, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, gesturing emphatically to one of our front desk managers. What's she complaining about now? I asked. The welcome champagne is too warm, apparently, Danielle said with a slight eye roll. Angela is handling it. Over the next hour, I watched as more relatives arrived. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, some with spouses and children in tow. Uncle Robert with his 3rd wife. Aunt Patricia looking distinguished as ever. Then Cassandra, making a grand entrance in designer clothes, taking selfies in the lobby beside our marble fountain. Bradley arrived shortly after, immediately trying to impress the concierge with stories about his important legal cases. I couldn't hear the audio, but his body language said everything, the way he leaned in. The expansive hand gestures, the expectant look waiting for admiration. Your mother and brother just arrived, Ethan said, pointing to another monitor. My heart warmed seeing them. Samuel helping my mother from the car, Stephanie wrangling their 2 children. They looked around the lobby with expressions I couldn't quite read. Was that nervousness? Anticipation? They know, don't they? Ethan asked. Samuel does. I'm not sure if he told Mom. The family congregated in the hotel restaurant for lunch around 1 p.m. I had instructed the chef to prepare our finest menu without any special adjustments. Through the cameras, I watched Aunt Geraldine inspect her plate with suspicion before taking a reluctant bite, then trying to hide her enjoyment. The salmon isn't properly seasoned, she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, even as she continued eating every bite. Cassandra dominated one end of the table, apparently describing a complicated medical procedure with exaggerated hand movements. Bradley held court at the other end, his voice carrying as he detailed his latest courtroom victory. My mother sat quietly, occasionally glancing toward the restaurant entrance. Samuel kept checking his phone, probably wondering if I would text with updates on my plan. After lunch, Geraldine had arranged a tour of the hotel for the family. Marcus led them through the historic sections of the building, explaining the original architecture and our restoration process, carefully omitting any mention of my involvement. "Who owns this place?" I heard Bradley ask through the tour guide's microphone. "Must be some trust fund kid who hired good designers." Marcus maintained his professional smile. "The hotel is owned by Barrett Luxury Holdings. We're very proud of our independent ownership." "Barrett?" Cassandra perked up. "Any relation to us?" "I couldn't say, ma'am," Marcus replied smoothly. "I believe it's a coincidence." As the afternoon progressed, the family settled into their rooms before gathering in the lounge for pre-dinner cocktails. The children were taken to the hotel's game room under the supervision of our childcare staff. Everything was proceeding according to schedule. Then came the first hiccup. "Ms. Barrett," Calvin called, entering my office with a concerned expression. "Your aunt is demanding to see the manager. She's unhappy with the flower arrangements in the ballroom." I checked the camera feed to see Geraldine standing in the middle of the grand ballroom, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently as she berated one of our event coordinators. "These are all wrong." Her voice came through clearly on the audio. "I specifically requested white roses with baby's breath, not these. Whatever these are. They're white peonies, ma'am," the coordinator explained patiently. "As discussed in your consultation, roses are out of season and would have been triple the cost." "I don't care about the cost. The Barretts deserve the best. Get me whoever's in charge immediately." I nodded to Marcus, who was standing by. "You're up. Remember, keep it professional." Through the monitor, I watched Marcus enter the ballroom with perfect poise. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Barrett. I'm Marcus Green, Managing Director. How can I assist you?" What followed was 15 minutes of Geraldine making increasingly unreasonable demands while Marcus maintained his composure. I felt a surge of pride in his professionalism and gratitude that I wasn't on the receiving end of my aunt's tirade. The situation escalated further when Cassandra accidentally spilled red wine on one of our hand-knotted Persian rugs. "Your waiter bumped into me," she insisted, though the camera clearly showed she had been taking a selfie while walking with her full glass. Bradley, seeing an opportunity to demonstrate his legal prowess, immediately jumped in. "This establishment clearly has liability for this incident." The positioning of the furniture created an unsafe walkway. I should know, I specialize in civil litigation. When a staff member arrived with the appropriate cleaning solution, Bradley waved them away. "Don't touch anything. This could be evidence if we decide to pursue damages." Calvin's voice came through my intercom. "Amelia, this is getting out of hand. They're threatening our staff with legal action now." I took a deep breath, watching the scene unfold. The Barrett family, my family, throwing their weight around, assuming their status, gave them the right to mistreat others. How many times had I witnessed this growing up? How many times had I been on the receiving end? In that moment, something crystallized within me. This wasn't just about revealing my success anymore. It was about standing up to bullying behavior that had gone unchecked for too long. "I'm coming down," I told Calvin, rising from my chair. Ethan looked concerned. "Are you sure? The dinner isn't for another hour." "I'm sure," I said, straightening my jacket. "It's time." I took the service elevator down to avoid any premature encounters. Calvin met me in the staff corridor outside the grand ballroom, giving me a quick update. "Your aunt is still berating the staff about the flowers. Your cousin Bradley is on the phone with someone he claims is his law partner, loudly discussing potential lawsuits. The wine stain is being treated despite their objections. And my mother? Samuel? They're sitting in the corner looking mortified. Your brother tried to intervene, but was shut down by your aunt. I nodded, smoothing my hair one last time. Let's do this. I entered the ballroom through the main doors, walking with deliberate, unhurried steps. The room was elegant, with crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the space. Tables were set with fine china and silver, each centerpiece a gorgeous arrangement of white peonies and greenery. For a moment, no one noticed me. Aunt Geraldine had her back to the door, still lecturing Marcus about proper flower etiquette. Cassandra was documenting the wine stain with her phone camera. Bradley was pacing near the windows, still on his call. Then, one by one, heads began to turn. My mother saw me first, her hand flying to her mouth in surprise. Samuel broke into a wide smile. Stephanie nudged him excitedly. The ripple of recognition spread across the room. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Geraldine, sensing the shift in atmosphere, turned around. Her expression was priceless, confusion, disbelief, then a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Amelia, she exclaimed with false enthusiasm. What a surprise. We didn't expect you to come. I walked toward her, maintaining eye contact. Hello, Aunt Geraldine. Cassandra sidled up beside her mother. Amelia, wow, you actually came. And you're dressed up. Her eyes scanned my Armani suit with poorly disguised surprise. Bradley ended his call abruptly. Cousin, what brings you here? Don't tell me you're working at this hotel. He laughed as if he'd made a clever joke. The entire family had gathered now, forming a loose circle around us. Some faces showed genuine happiness at seeing me, others barely concealed disdain, and many simply looked confused by the tension. Geraldine attempted to regain control of the situation. Amelia. Dear, it's lovely that you've come, but we're in the middle of sorting out some issues with the hotel staff. They've been terribly incompetent. Have they? I asked calmly. Absolutely. Cassandra jumped in. The service here is not what one would expect given the prices they charge. The management will be hearing from me, Bradley added importantly. As I was just telling my partner at the firm, there are serious liability issues with how this establishment is run. I let them finish, then turned slightly to beckon Marcus and Calvin forward. They moved to stand beside me, their posture professional but supportive. Ms. Barrett, Marcus said clearly, is there anything else you need for the event? The room went silent. Geraldine looked between Marcus and me, her brow furrowing. Ms. Barrett, she repeated. What is he talking about, Amelia? I allowed myself a small smile. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Aunt Geraldine, you seem to believe there are issues with my hotel. Your hotel. Bradley scoffed. What are you talking about? I turned to face the entire family. I'm Amelia Barrett, founder and CEO of Barrett Luxury Holdings and owner of the Sapphire Hotel. Welcome to my establishment. The silence that followed was absolute. Cassandra's mouth opened and closed without sound. Bradley's face flushed red. Various cousins and aunts exchanged shocked glances. Geraldine recovered first, her expression morphing rapidly from shock to disbelief to calculated interest. Well, this is quite a surprise. Why didn't you tell us, dear? We would have been so proud to know you've done so well for yourself. Would you? I asked, my voice steady. That's interesting. Because according to your text message, no failures allowed at this reunion. I nodded to Danielle, who had quietly entered with a tablet. She tapped the screen, and the message projected onto the ballroom's presentation wall, enlarged for all to see. Amelia, regarding the reunion, we've secured the Sapphire Hotel downtown for our gathering. It's very exclusive and maintains the Barrett standard. No failures allowed. If you haven't accomplished anything worth sharing in Cassandra's booklet, perhaps skip this event. We want to maintain a certain image. Gasps echoed around the room. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Samuel put his arm around her shoulders. That's taken out of context. Geraldine sputtered. I was simply encouraging you to be proud of your accomplishments. By telling me to stay away? I asked. I turned to Danielle again, who swiped to a new image, a slideshow of the Sapphire's development, showing me at the construction site, at the grand opening, receiving the city's Business Leadership Award. I dropped out of Harvard to take care of Mom after Dad died, I said, addressing the entire family now. You all decided that made me a failure. Not one of you, except Samuel and Mom, bothered to ask what happened afterward. Bradley stepped forward, his lawyer face on. Amelia, this is all very impressive. You should have told us. We would have included you in the family achievements book. That's right. Cassandra added quickly. We always knew you had potential. I raised my hand for silence. I don't need to be in your book. My name is already on the building. Geraldine, ever the strategist, changed tactics. Well, this is wonderful. A true Barrett success story after all. We must celebrate properly. Perhaps you'd like to give a speech at dinner about your journey? I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time saw not the intimidating aunt who had dominated my childhood, but a small, insecure woman desperate to associate herself with success. I think I said carefully that it would be best if some of you continued your celebration elsewhere. What? Geraldine's smile faltered. I've instructed my staff to provide full refunds for your rooms. There are several other excellent hotels in the city that I'd be happy to recommend. You're kicking us out? Bradley looked incredulous. Not all of you, I clarified. Mom, Samuel, Stephanie, and their children are welcome to stay, as are any family members who have treated me with basic human respect over the years. The rest of you, yes, I am asking you to leave. This is outrageous. Geraldine sputtered. You can't do this. Actually, Calvin said, stepping forward as head of security, I can confirm that Ms. Barrett absolutely can do this. It's her property. We have a contract. Bradley protested. Lawyer mode fully engaged, which includes a standard clause allowing us to refuse service to anyone creating a hostile environment for our staff, Marcus explained smoothly. Your behavior today falls well within those parameters. Cassandra looked around wildly, as if seeking support. This is about the wine? I said it wasn't my fault. This isn't about the wine. I said quietly. This is about 10 years of being treated as less than because I made different choices. This is about learning that family should support each other, not tear each other down. I looked at the shocked faces around me. I'm not doing this out of revenge. I'm doing this because I finally value myself enough to set boundaries. Calvin gestured. And several security staff members appeared discreetly by the doors. We'd be happy to assist anyone who needs help with their luggage, he said professionally. What followed was a flurry of outrage, hurried packing, and dramatic exits. Geraldine proclaimed she would never set foot in this establishment again, a promise I hoped she would keep. Bradley threatened lawsuits that we all knew would never materialize. Cassandra took a final selfie in the lobby for evidence. Within an hour, the most toxic elements of the Barrett family had departed, leaving behind a much smaller but infinitely warmer group. My mother approached me, tears streaming down her face. Amelia, I had no idea. The hotel. Everything you've built. I embraced her tightly. It's okay, Mom. I wanted to surprise you once it was all established. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. And so sorry I wasn't stronger when you needed me. Samuel clapped me on the shoulder. That was quite an exit strategy, sis. Remind me never to get on your bad side. For the first time in years. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The Barrett family reunion would continue, just with a very different guest list than originally planned. That evening, I hosted an intimate dinner in my penthouse apartment for those who remained. My mother, Samuel and his family, and a few cousins who had always been kind to me. Ethan joined us, finally meeting my family officially as my partner. The city lights twinkled below us as we sat around my dining table, sharing stories and reconnecting in a way that felt authentic for the first time in years. "I still can't believe this is all yours," my mother said, gesturing to the expansive space and the hotel below. "All those times you said you were doing okay or managing fine." "I didn't want to worry you," I explained. And honestly, success came gradually. There was no overnight transformation. "Your father would have been so proud," she said softly. "Not because of the money or the prestige, but because you built something meaningful your way." Samuel raised his glass. "To Amelia, who taught us all that success comes in many forms." As dinner progressed, my mother grew more animated than I'd seen her in years. She asked thoughtful questions about the business, showing a keen interest in the financial structures I'd created. "You know," I said, watching her engage with Marcus about our expansion plans, "I could use someone with your organizational skills at the corporate office. The educational foundation I'm starting needs a director." Her eyes widened. "You trust me with that?" "Mom, you ran a university department for 20 years. You're overqualified, if anything." Later, I gave everyone a private tour of the hotel, sharing stories about the restoration process and the challenges we'd overcome. When we reached the ballroom, now quiet and elegant in the evening light, Samuel pulled me aside. "Geraldine has been texting me nonstop," he said, showing me his phone. "She's oscillating between outrage and attempts to reconcile." I glanced at the messages, each more manipulative than the last. "Tell Amelia we can work this out." Obviously, there was a misunderstanding. The family needs to present a united front. Her behavior was embarrassing. I was only ever trying to motivate her to reach her potential. Does she realize how this looks to the extended family? She's damaging the Barrett name. I handed the phone back to Samuel. "Let her text." "I'm not interested in fake reconciliations." "What about the others?" he asked. "Bradley's wife called Stephanie, fishing for information about your business." "I'm not closing the door forever," I said after considering this. "But any relationship moving forward will be on different terms. No more accepting disrespect as the price of admission to the family." Later that night, as most of the group relaxed in the lounge, I showed my mother the small office I'd had prepared for her. Should she accept my job offer? "This would be yours," I explained. "The Barrett Educational Foundation will provide scholarships for students who have to leave college to support their families. We'll help them complete their education on their own timeline." "Named after Grandma Martha?" she asked, noticing the logo mock-up on the wall. She believed in me when no one else did. Her little inheritance made all of this possible. My mother squeezed my hand. "Do you know why she named you Amelia?" I shook my head. "After Amelia Earhart. She always said you'd chart your own course." As the weekend continued, we created new family memories to replace the painful ones: a shopping expedition for my niece and nephew, a spa day for the women, a business lunch where Samuel and Ethan hit it off discussing architectural preservation. By Sunday evening, when the last of our small group departed, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. I stood in the lobby, arm in arm with Ethan, watching my mother hug Samuel goodbye before returning to her new suite in the hotel's residential section. "So," Ethan said, "was it worth it? Facing them, you mean?" He nodded. "Absolutely." I replied without hesitation. Not because I proved them wrong or made them regret their treatment of me. That was never the point. What was the point then? I thought about this as we walked back toward the elevators. The point was standing in my truth. For years, I let their definition of success and failure shape how I saw myself. Even as I built all this, part of me still carried their judgment. The elevator doors opened to my penthouse, where floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city I'd grown to love. "And now?" Ethan asked. "Now I know that success isn't having your name on a building or impressing people who were determined to think the worst of you. It's building a life that aligns with your values." It's creating something meaningful. It's surrounding yourself with people who see your worth, even when you're struggling to see it yourself. I thought of Grandma Martha's weathered notebook, still kept in my desk drawer, and her belief that true success came from integrity, not accolades. I thought of my team who had helped build the Sapphire, not because of the Barrett name, but because they believed in our shared vision. Most of all, I thought of the frightened young woman I'd been at 20, dropping out of Harvard and facing a future very different from the one I'd planned, and how that supposed failure had set me on a path to genuine fulfillment. The greatest success isn't proving others wrong, I said finally. It's proving yourself right. If you've ever been underestimated or labeled a failure because you chose a different path, I hope my story resonates with you. Sometimes our greatest setbacks lead to our most authentic achievements. Have you ever had a moment where someone's rejection became your redirection? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life journeys of overcoming obstacles. And hit that like button if you believe success should be defined on your own terms. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth isn't determined by others' opinions of you, but by the integrity and courage with which you live your life.